Do you use Unreal Engine and want to make things a little easier for yourself? Hey everybody, it's Candy. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to go over 18 features in Unreal Engine that you might not know about that can be really useful in just about any workflow. Like this video? Don't forget to drop a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. You can also head to the video description to find our Patreon, where members can subscribe to make content requests, get free assets and merch, and earn shoutouts in our videos. Now, let's start the sim. Sometimes you find a really good spot in your scene, and you might want to choose to go back to it at some point at just the click of a button. You can do this easily with bookmarks. Find the spot in your viewport, then hit Control and any number. When you hit that number again, you'll travel back to the view you bookmarked. This is really helpful if you have a giant scene or if you just want to zone in on certain areas repeatedly. It can also be really helpful if you're taking screenshots or doing any sort of animation. Next is snapping to horizontal surfaces, or snapping down. You just select your actor and hit the End key. It'll snap down to any surface below it. This can be really helpful if you're doing any sort of architecture, if you're trying to put something on a table or straight down onto a floor. If your character is floating a little bit, you might want to use this. Just snap them back down to the ground. This feature can be really helpful for setting up all sorts of scenes. Next up is adjusting pivot points. On some meshes, you may find that the pivot point is in the wrong place, or just somewhere really inconvenient. So when you pivot it, it pivots from a random spot instead of somewhere useful. For example, doors usually pivot from hinges, but your mesh may pivot from the very center. In order to fix this, go to modeling mode, click X-form, and adjust pivot. You can move the pivot all over the place from here. There are lots of different options that snap the pivot point to the bottom, the top, left, and right. When you're happy with your placement, just hit accept to save it. You can then go back to selection mode and enjoy controlling your mesh more easily. If you need to save some disk space from all of the cached assets you've got, you can open the Epic Games launcher and head to your library. Click the arrow next to any of the assets you've got cached and select remove local content. You'll see your total cache drop and your disk space free up. This can be really helpful if your hard drive is getting kind of full and you just want to really easily clear things out that you're not using. Next up is duplicating objects. One really easy way to do it is to just hold Alt and then translate any direction from the original object that you want to duplicate. This helps you do this a lot faster than using copy-paste to populate areas with meshes. Next is a shortcut for renaming assets in your content browser. Of course, you can always right-click and go to rename, but you can also just select the item and hit F2. This will help to save time, especially when multiple items need to be renamed. Want to take a high-resolution screenshot? Pressing G removes your overlays to make it a render view. You can hit G again to put them back, but it removes things like these lights, the selection lines around objects, and you can hit F9 to take your screenshot. You can also use F11 to expand your viewport before using F9 to take that screenshot. You can also access it with the three lines up in the corner next to your view mode and scroll down to high-resolution screenshot. If you have a really large level and you're trying to find an item, you can use your outliner to select the asset, then hit F to snap your view to the object. This is a great shortcut for large and complicated scenes. Want to improve performance? Use the three-line menu up in the left corner to select Show FPS. You can see on my computer it averages around 75 frames per second. If your system isn't quite as good, it'll be a little bit slower. Now, one way to do it is to go up to Settings, up in the very top right, select Engine Scalability, and then just change everything over to low. Of course, you can switch it back anytime you want. Another way to improve your performance is to come up at the top left where it says lit, click that, and choose unlit. You can see that boosted my frames per second to over 110, and that's a really easy change to make. Now, if your content drawer is really full, you might want to make it a little easier to go through, and you can do that by color coding your folders. So just click with your right mouse button on any of your folders and choose Set Color. After you set a color, you'll have it stashed there, so you can use it for organization of other folders, or you can choose a new color. When you're done, you can go ahead and clear the color the same way. Next up is object manipulation shortcuts. You can use the top up here for transform, rotation, and scalability, but sometimes it can be a hassle to go back and click every single time you want to change anything. So a really good shortcut for this is the W, E, and R keys on your keyboard. W is for translate, E will help you rotate, and R is going to scale your objects. This is really easy to switch between, and it's definitely a shortcut you're going to want to know right off the bat. It'll save you a lot of time. Now, say you want to create a hole in an object. Move a mesh where you want the cut to be. Go to modeling mode, select both objects with your target object being selected first and your cutout object being selected second. Then in the model tab, you want to select Boolean. You can then adjust your cutout shape any way you want, and when you're done and you're happy with where it is, just go ahead and click accept, and you'll see you've got a nice shaped hole right where you want it to be. If you want to use physics for level design, this is actually really easy to do. You can allow gravity to drop items into place. So at the top next to the play button, there's three dots. Click them and make sure you have simulate mode on. Then select your object and make sure it's got simulate physics checked in the properties menu. Then when you hit play, your object will drop into place. If you're happy with where it drops, select it again and hit the K key on your keyboard. Then when you exit play mode, it'll stay where it dropped. Normally when you move an object, your viewport stays exactly where it is. But if you want to move your object and your camera at the same time, just hold shift while you're moving your object. Your viewport will move right along with you, and it can make it really easy to place objects correctly in your scene. A really handy shortcut for changing your camera speed is holding either the left or right mouse button and then toggling your scroll wheel. That'll either speed up or slow down the camera, so when you're moving around your scene, you can either move really gently or speed up your camera so that you can cover ground pretty quickly. Want to merge two meshes together? Just select two or more objects. Go up to the Actors tab in the very top menu, select Merge or Simplify, and then choose where in your library you want it to save. Now you can access those merged objects from your content browser, and this can be really useful in a lot of scenarios. Do you prefer the Unreal Engine 4 layout to UE5? Well, it's really easy to get back to it. Just go up to Window, go down to Load Layout, and choose Classic 4. If you're ready to go back to the Unreal 5 layout, just do the same thing, but select Default Editor Layout. If you want to open your content drawer at any time, you can hit Control Space. You can also dock it in your layout, which is what I prefer. I like having my content drawer available all the time, but if you do like to exit out of it, Control Space will bring it back up at any time. Are there any shortcuts you love to use? Let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll be back with lots more tips and tricks and tutorials for Unreal Engine, Blender, Adobe Substance, and more. So just make sure that you're following us to not miss anything. That's all for today, so until next time, take care of yourself and each other.